Hi YouTube. This is my first ever video. This is kind of like a test video, and today I'm gonna do a tier list on Cuphead bosses. Cuphead is a game I like a lot. I'm gonna probably upload more videos on it, but this is today I'm just doing a tier list, ranking each boss based on how fun I had trying to S rank them. Now, the only bosses I haven't S ranked yet are Chef Saltbaker and Mortimer Freeze, but I've tried really hard to S rank them, so I think I can give, a good verdict on how my experience is when fighting them. So just a disclaimer before the video starts. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy the video. Now let's just start with the aisle one bosses. So we got Goopy. Goopy is a very relatively standard boss. I mean, the guy only has two attacks you have to understand, which is that he jumps left to right and also he punches you horizontally. Other than he's a pretty easy boss to just S Frank in general, but and yeah, he's just an alright boss. So I'm gonna put him directly in the middle. Now, same with the root pack. It is extremely easy to S rank. The only thing that really changes is that the projectiles are faster. But other than that, these two are like introductory bosses. So fighting them was like pretty much similar to the regular experience. So I'm just gonna put them all here. Now let's get into the first real boss in aisle one, which is Ribby and Crooks. Now, S ranking Ribby and Crooks in expert does take some time to understand because you need to get used to the fact that two of the frogs start attacking. What the fuck? When did two of them start attacking? But yeah, it can get a bit hard to manage at first, but I think once you learn it and get the hang of it, it becomes a pretty fun boss to fight. The last phase, the only thing that really big, the only thing that really changes is that the coins are faster and some of the projectiles are faster. But other than that, it's a pretty fun challenge, and I think I liked fighting it quite a bit on expert. So I'm gonna put Ribby and Croaks perfectly in this tier. Now I'm gonna move on to Hildeberg. I generally don't like Hildeberg on expert because it's of the last phase. It's pretty RNG based in my opinion, with the UFO and stars. Sometimes you get UFOs that are like aligned in the bad positions, and the stars kind of just block where you go. Um, Other than that, the first few phases of Hildeberg just have more HP, have more projectiles, and is generally faster. Um, it's definitely a challenge, yeah, but it's one of the bosses I didn't really like S ranking on expert due to the fact that its final phase is pretty RNG. So I'm gonna put it in. I prefer not to do it. Um, yeah, I think that's all the aisle one bosses. Oh wait, no, sorry, I'm missing Cagney. Cagney, Carnation. The only really hard thing I'd say an expert is his first phase, which is just a bunch of flower seed spam, which it does take some time to get used to, definitely. It can be challenging at first, but once you just learn how to deal with the minions, either through a homing weapon like a chaser and or something else, this boss becomes pretty manageable, and the only thing that remains is just faster projectiles and also more hectic third phase, I guess. So I'd say Cagney is an alright boss to S rank an expert. It wasn't anything too special aside from the first phase. So yeah. Um, let's move on to aisle two now, I believe. So I'm gonna start with Baroness von Bonbon, or the other way around. Anyhow, I just don't like this boss as well. It's not that challenging in my opinion. The thing I just don't like about this boss is the freaking mini bosses, dude. It's in random order. Some you can just get completely screwed over by. Um, there's such as the cupcake dude. Yeah, this is a boss I don't really like to fight because you have to fight three mini bosses before actually fighting the other boss. And the and yeah, and plus the last phase can get pretty hectic and expert with how she throws two heads instead of one. Yeah, I just don't like bosses in that just force you to fight other mini bosses just to get to the other boss, with some exceptions that I'll talk about later. But fairness is in the I prefer not to do it. I'm gonna talk about Beppy the Clown next. Now, Beppy the Clown to S rank was relatively similar to the regular experience in my opinion. I'd say the only hard part becomes is like the phase where he's on a cart, since there's a lot more projectiles and the cart moves significantly faster. But other than that, Beppy on expert was a was an okay challenge to be honest. I didn't find it like you know extremely satisfying to be an expert. I thought it was just amped up, just I think too less. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in the it was alright tier. Um, Now we're gonna move on to Jimmy the Great. Jimmy the Great is also a highly RNG boss, in my opinion, to S rank. His first phase can just really mess you up with what he throws at you, and also, um, the what is it? The phase, the Cuphead phase. Sometimes that phase is a bit bullshit, in my opinion. Plus his time requirement for an S rank is absurd. He has the most phases by far, and you're just freaking praying that it's over. And when the time you're thinking about that, you're gonna probably make a mistake. It's a boss I just prefer not to do because it lasts for too long. And it has kind of some RNG elements that I don't like. So I'm gonna put Jimmy in the I prefer not to do it again tier list. Um, well, let's go on to Grim Matchstick. So Grim Matchstick, again, it's alright in my opinion. I think it's honestly easier on expert since the clouds move in a way that's more favorable towards you. Um, I think one of the best setups though for Grid Matchstick is just Lobber and Roundabout. That setup just completely annihilates the boss, and I don't think it provides that much of a challenge. You just have to watch out for more projectiles, which isn't that hard if you already played and beat Grid Matchstick on regular. It's just an alright boss, man, to S rank. It's nothing special. Um, Now let's talk about Wally Warbles. Fucking hell. Now this is a pretty painful boss for me at least. The first phase is extremely hectic. It's so much harder than regular Wally Warbles because the eggshells split into so much more pieces that it makes it like almost in some situations impossible to dodge. But yeah. And also the final phase where he's on his deathbed is very hectic as well. It is so much more challenging on expert. Um, Divine Relic really helped me out on this, but if you're trying to S rank just by using the base game items, you're gonna have a really tough time. Divine Relic saved my life on this boss, but yeah, this is a boss I would just not even prefer to do, even with a Divine Relic when S ranking. This boss is just painful. So I'm gonna just put it in painful experience. I just don't want to S rank this dude again, dude. Um, Now let's move on to IO free bosses. I'm gonna start off with Rumor Honeybottoms. I already hate the nature of this boss because of the platform RNG. There's some situations where you're trying to scale up on one side and then there's just no platforms at all. Um, X beating this boss, S ranking this boss though wasn't too hard, I'd say. The only thing you really had to watch out for, in my opinion, was that the projectiles move faster. So you just have to scale more efficiently and quickly. Again, this is a boss I just don't like, and S ranking it wasn't really a fun time for me. Not in the sense that it was hard, but because the platforms just kept screwing me over. And I guess the parry requirement was kind of a problem for me, since I had to also worry about the health requirement as well. So I just had to put it in. I just had to put the B herself in the. I prefer not to do it here. Now let's move on to Dr. Cal's robot. Oh boy. I'm gonna say something that might be controversial, but I like fighting this dude on Expert. Yeah, I like fighting this guy. He's a very fun challenge. On Expert, he's significantly harder because there's a lot more projectiles going on in the first phase, and the last phase the bullets are like slightly faster. So this is definitely a very fun and hard challenge on Expert, I'd say. It feels fair for most part. The first phase is pure memorization, in my opinion. You just get used to it after trial and error. And the third phase I always find to be, a lot bit hectic, a fun, challenging bullet hell. Dr. Cal's robot was a boss I liked S ranking. Like, I don't know if that's like insane, but I genuinely liked S ranking this boss. It was fun. Um, Now I'm gonna move on to Captain Briny Beard. Briny Beard, in my opinion, is also a boss I liked. It's a fair challenge, and there's definitely a big there's definitely a significant step up from regular to expert. It provides a solid enough challenge that I enjoy. Parry requirements are pretty easy to get. Um, there's no bullshit requirements in my opinion for this boss. It just really tests to your skill. So this is a boss I really like fighting. It's also kind of similar to Dr. Cal as well. I feel like there's no like bullshit requirements. It just really tests your skill. So yeah, Captain Briny Beard has to go here. hmm I'm gonna move on to Werner Werman. Werner Werman is probably one of my favorite bosses in the whole game. And S ranking him, while the S ranking was while the S ranking was relatively easy for our free boss, I'd say Werner Werman still presents a pretty good challenge for an expert, for a person who's playing for the first time. There's definitely a noticeable difficulty, especially in the last few phases. Um, so yeah, I think Werner Werman is a boss I just have a really fun time fighting. It's fair, it's interesting, it's fair. It's also a good challenge as well. I'm gonna put Werman in an extremely fun time to S rank. This is just a boss I can play all over again and have fun with. Now, I'm gonna talk about Sally's stage play. Um, yeah, this is a boss I prefer not to do. Mostly because it's a pretty parry starved boss. The only times you're gonna really get consistent parries is the first phase, and typically you have to like shoot slower so that she has time to, kiss the hearts out and you parry them. Sometimes it also leads me to just straight up not getting the time requirement, but that could just be a skill issue. This is a boss. While this boss is a pretty good challenge for expert, especially in the second phase, it's a boss I feel like the parry requirements are a bit too BS. So I just prefer not to do it and rather fight someone else. Now let's move on to Cala Maria. Again, this is a boss I just don't like to fight as well. It is very RNG, especially in the first and actually, no, not even in the first phase. This boss is just very RNG throughout its entire phases. Sometimes you get combinations of attacks that are really hard to dodge, but and also sometimes you get stunned by the eye, and then you get hit by like a poisoned orb or whatever. It's a very RNG boss. I just don't like to fight it. It's not in a painful experience in my opinion because there's still very preventable ways to mitigate these issues compared to Wally Warbles, which just you just have to take damage, bro. So I'm gonna put it in. I prefer not to do it. Mm, Next is the Phantom Express. The Phantom Express is a boss I actually like a lot. Um, like fighting. On Expert, it's a very good challenge as well, especially in the last phase. Especially in the last phase, there's definitely a noticeable difficulty increase. It's a boss, in my opinion, that feels fair in its requirements to S rank, um, while presenting itself as a good challenge. inexpert as well. So I'm gonna just put it Phantom Express and I like fighting it. Now we're gonna move on to the Isle Hell bosses, starting with the mini bosses as well, because you also have to fight the mini bosses to get to the actual boss himself. So yes, I'll be ranking the mini bosses. Let's start off with Tipsy Troop. Um, this is a boss I just prefer not to fight because there's just so many more easier options. So I'm gonna put Tipsy Troop in I prefer not to do it. Where is the Tipsy Troop? There they are. Um, Chips Bedigan. Chips Bedigan is always the boss I choose to when I'm fighting King Dice, but mostly because it's one of the easiest one. You just have to aim at his head and then just dodge the dominoes. It's pretty trivial if you have a smoke bomb. So yeah, I'm just gonna speedrun all the mini bosses to be honest, since you can't really get a rank from them. I'm just gonna put them like I'm just gonna speedrun the ranking. So yeah. What is it? So Mr. Wheezy, I prefer not to do it. It takes way too long, even though it's really easy as well. So here. Um, Next up we got uh Pip and Dominoes. This is usually the one I also go for. It's an alright boss. It gets kind of repetitive though. So yeah. Um, Hocus Pocus. I prefer not to do it because it's one of the harder mini bosses with the projectile attacks. Um, Fear Lap is also is also the one I go for. So I'm gonna put it in alright. Actually no, actually no. You know what? I'm gonna put it in I prefer not to do it because I remember the times I played it and the freaking foreground would just block my freaking vision, bro. Like it's actually so annoying. I'm gonna put it in here. Mangosteen. Um, Also mostly choose this one. It's alright. It's Mangosteen, bro. I don't really know what to say about him. Mr. Chimes, painful experience. Takes way too long. Drags on too long. It's not fun. You risk losing the time requirements. So, yeah. Which ones am I missing? Uh, Now, King Dice himself. Um, King Dice himself is alright on S ranking and expert. The big difference is that the cards move faster, and you just have to parry like a bit more quickly in terms of your reaction. It's an alright boss to S rank. I've gotten really used to parrying, so I'm gonna put it in the alright tier. Sorry if that was a bit rushed, but King Dice is a bit of an odd boss to rank in a tier list in my opinion. So yeah, let's just move on to the Devil. The Devil was a boss I liked fighting I liked fighting in S ranking and expert. Um, I guess it's like mostly because of the theme and the overall skill of the boss. But other than that, it's a pretty good challenge, even if it's a bit RNG in the first phase. You get enough parries, you get enough parries and opportunities, so it doesn't feel BS. And the health requirement is pretty manageable in my opinion. So yeah, this is a boss that was definitely a big step up in terms of difficulties, in terms of expert difficulty, and it's a fun challenge to S rank it. So I'm gonna put it in I liked fighting it. Um, Now let's move on to the aisle 4 bosses. Great. Okay. Start off with the Moonshine Mob. Moonshine Mob is one of my personal favorites as well. It's has such an amazing theme, but yeah, we're gonna be talking about mostly S ranking here. So, S ranking Moonshine Mob, the only I say annoying phase is like the last phase, the anteater phase, because it's one of those phases that can really eat your time depending on where the anteater sticks his like nose out. So I had some experiences where I'm doing really well, but I don't kill the anteater fast enough to meet the time requirement. But so yeah, that's like one complaint I have that the last phase is a bit RNG. But Other than that, this is a pretty fun boss on Expert. It's a good challenge from the normal one, and I'm gonna put it in I liked fighting it. It's you got many parry opportunities. It's a fair but yet challenging boss to S rank in Expert. Like what can I say about it? Next we're gonna move on to Esther Winchester. This is also one of my favorite bosses, man. I swear to God, a lot of these, not only because of its theme, but also its fight. This is an amazing fight. Like the Cuphead developers were cooking with this one. This is the expert version of Esther Winchester presents also a really good challenge. It doesn't feel BS because there's many opportunities to get parries, and also um it's also one of those bosses that you can learn relatively quickly, in my opinion. But it's just hard and tests your skill. So this is one of my favorite bosses to S rank, and I have a fun time when I do it. So yeah, Esther Winchester is firmly in the extremely fun time tier. Now I'm gonna move on to the Howling Aces. The Howling Aces is just I just prefer not to do it, bro. Like mostly because of the last phase. I know the controls itself aren't too hard to get used to, but like there are bosses I rather just fight that don't have such a gimmick. Like S ranking this boss wasn't even that bad. It's mostly the last phase that just feels so weird. Like this is I know this is a bias, but like it's just something I prefer not to do because of how weird it is. So Howling Aces is in. Prefer not to do a tier list. Now I got Glumstone Giant. Glumstone Giant is also a boss I like a lot. On Expert, yeah, he's definitely harder. There's it's significant. Um, he doesn't feel BS. He doesn't feel BS. He has many parry opportunities. His attacks are challenging, but they're also pretty easy to read. Well, not easy to read, but you know where they're coming from. So when you die, it feels like it's your fault, which is what a good game should do. The game should always make you feel like it's your fault for dying, and you can improve on it. I think Glumstone Jet does a pretty good job at that. I'm gonna put him in. I liked fighting it. Right. Okay. Mortimer Freeze. I don't like this boss at all. Like this, I don't like it. It's a painful experience to S rank because you just get no parries, bro. And then the parries, even though he does give a parry in every phase, getting it might as well just be better not getting it because you're gonna take damage. This is one of the bosses I still haven't S ranked yet, and I spent way too much time trying to S rank it, only to get like A or A plus. It's actually such an annoying boss to fight, bro. Like I'm gonna put it in painful experience. Oh, I forgot to rank Perletta. Usually I don't do this boss, so I'm gonna put it here. Um, right. Now finally we got my man Chef Salt Baker. I also haven't rest ranked this, but Jesus Christ, it is infuriating. The first phase is literal hellspawn. It is one of the most hectic and chaotic Cuphead experiences I have in a while. The second phase doesn't get much better, dude. I mean, yeah, it's easier, but sometimes the freaking fireballs and then the freaking pepper throwing projectiles is so annoying. Like sometimes you get stuck in positions where it's practically impossible to just dodge out of. Luckily, the last few phases get easy. So my overall verdict is that if I had to S rank this boss, I prefer definitely not to do it. But at the same time, it's not as infuriating since um the requ- there's no like bullshit requirements like Mortimer Freeze. So yeah, this is a boss I just prefer not to S rank, dude. Well, let's try to S rank because I haven't S ranked it yet. Um, yeah, that concludes all the bosses, but I'm still going to include some of the King Gauntlet bosses and also the Angel and Demon. If there was hypothetically a rank for them. So let's say S ranking Angel and Demon. I would say this is an alright boss. Okay, the gimmick itself isn't too bad to learn. You pick up on it pretty quickly. Um, so yeah, it's not too bad. It's all right. On expert, I assume this would be one of the bosses where it'll take me some time, and it'll definitely have some challenges, but it won't be too bad. So yeah. Now, the King Dice bosses. I'm gonna start with the pawn first. Now, I think the pawn itself would be a boss I just think I just would not want to do, mostly because it could get very hectic in the last few phases. Um, when you're trying to like parry the other pawns and you just end up taking damage. It's just kind of like clutter, too much clutter going on that I just don't want to do it. So the pawns are in here. Knight, too tedious. What can I say? It's way too tedious for a boss fight. Bishop, Bishop, I think will present a good challenge, but at the same time, I feel like if it was something an expert at the S rank, it will be a boss. I just think it's all right, like nothing too special. The Rook, um, I think I would just not prefer to do the Rook if there was an expert difficulty for it and I had to S rank it, since the whole ping pong pairing mechanic can feel RNG sometimes. Sometimes he summons like the parryable things in like the weirdest locations, and then when you try to ping pong it, you end up hitting like the sparks. This is just a boss I feel like would be a bit RNG, and I would not prefer to do it if there was an expert difficulty. Um, all right, now the queen. The queen. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I would actually think that if there was an expert difficulty for a queen and had to S rank it, I would actually like fighting it because I think I like queen the most in the King's Gauntlet. It's probably one of my favorite ones. The fight itself feels fair. It feels fresh and unique, and I feel like it isn't that bullshit. So if I would honestly put queen in, I liked fighting it. So yeah. Well, that concludes the entire tier list. Um, comment down what you think about my tier list. You know, we could have some civil discussions about the ranking. You know, can clear some confusions. But yeah, this is my first test video, and I hope you enjoy.